Good news. It's recording now. Hi, Chad. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Beverage director over at Common Good Cocktail House. That is quite a feat, which obviously would have started way back with your first ever alcoholic beverage. What was the story of your first ever drink?
Oh my goodness, this is going to sound incredibly lame, but truth. So I think maybe my first alcoholic beverage was a mint chocolate Bailey's. I attended a very dry college where you have to like sign something that says you're not going to drink. And my senior year, I was like, you know what? It's a nice spring, and I felt like the pinnacle of drinking was enjoying a mint chocolate Bailey's in a hammock under a magnolia tree. I know it sounds like at the same time like wholesome and weird and ridiculous, and it was all of those things. But I think I remember enjoying it a lot.
Wait, what college did you go to that made you sign this?
This was Wheaton College, out here in the Western Burbs. It's the dry evangelical college.
Bless. I didn't even mean that pun, but like, yeah, bless, dog. So, man,
You know,
it does sound like a paradise a little bit.
that I mean, I felt like it was cool, although like I could have probably been kicked out of the college for doing it. I don't know, or at least they would have had to talk to me. I like to tell people that's where I learned how to bartend, but it is demonstrably false.
But also, like, imagine being the administrator to find out about that and then like having to punish you for that. Like, really, this is I'm gonna punish him for mint chocolate
This is
Bailey's.
what you
That
chose
doesn't.
to do with your defiance. Yeah,
I feel
no,
like he punished himself there. I don't feel like we need to take any action on this front.
yeah. Needless to say, I feel like I have better taste now in alcohol.
I'd hope so. Yeah. So tell me about your journey going from a full on dry college that
Yeah.
you were very obedient to. Again, like, bless, good on you. A much better person than us here at Rock 95.5. So how did you get into the cocktail world?
Yeah, okay, so I think after college, I moved to New York City, and I think like a lot of people who move there, you're scrambling to know like just how to survive and live. I think that was like my goal. Like I had these like nominal like things set in mind of like, okay, I'd like to be an artistic director for a theater company. I'd like to be a yoga instructor. So I did those things, but to survive and make money, I think I walked into like the first like nice restaurants I saw, which I think was like Blue Water Grill in Union Square. And they're like, you don't have the experience to work for us. But we're opening up a new place. And like it was a large restaurant group and they provide a lot of training. And I think it was the day that they called Tequila College Day, where I think we tasted through something like 18 different tequilas and like learned all about them, met producers. I was like, I actually really love this.
Mm.
And I think that kind of started me off on the journey.
That's really interesting too that you mentioned that you were in essentially the arts community and then got into the cocktail world, because that's one thing that I have found now doing however many of these Thursday interviews that I've done is
Yeah.
that it's an art form, and the people that are really good at it, that are really passionate about it, and that are frankly successful at it are the people that recognize it for its art form. Do you think that that's true?
Yeah, I really honestly do. And I don't know if I ever actually would have named that as a real intersection in my
Mm.
life, probably until I moved to Chicago right around 2009. I think like I remember once I was doing I had moved back to Chicago. I met my now wife. I think right after I had like professed my love for her and all of that, like I'd gone back to New York to do this like Shakespeare show in the Hamptons, and I got I think I had a little bit too much wine, and I was laying on a hammock with her, watching the stars spin above me, and I think I said to her something like, you know, when we get married and have kids, which we hadn't talked about at all at that point, I would like to not be a bartender anymore. Um, and
Adorable.
I hadn't found my passion yet. I hadn't found like why it was meaningful for me. But I think like these days I would probably articulate it in a very specific way. I find that both like art and like bartending, and like to be honest, like I think even my own like personal practice of faith, I find that they intersect in what I would call like an anti-anesthetic approach to life. That I feel like you could practice art, like that comedy is just like an escape from like how shitty this life is. I feel like you could drink your life away in the same way of like I just don't want to feel the pain anymore. I want to become numb to like what I'm experiencing. And I feel like you can practice faith as an escape from like reality and only care about like the next world and not really care about like what's going on in this world. But I feel like there's a way of practicing each in the opposite of like trying to taste life more richly and deeply. And I feel like that's probably why I'm passionate about cocktails now.
Whoa, Chad. Whoa. That was an artistic answer indeed. So we know that we're going to get some good cocktails. So tell me about what goes into your process at Common Good and what you think that you bring as beverage director to that program.
Yeah. Okay. So it is the first bar that I've ever owned. Like I've done some beverage directing before, and I think like our team is incredible. Like it's me and my wife Alicia, who she used to be the director of events and catering and wholesale over at Bang Bang Pine Biscuits, and then our colleague Mike, who used to run the program at Mott Street. And so my background is more like Longman and Eagle, and then I helped design Mott Street, Ipsen of 606, and so we've all got like that sort of experience. But this is the first time we've ever like, I think, put our money where our mouth is, even though we didn't use any of our own money to start up the bar. And just said, okay, if we want to practice like this in a way that does reflect our values more, how do we actually like, I think, go about doing that? And so we try to only hire people without experience, because I think we believe you can teach someone how to bartend, but you can't teach someone how to be nice. And we're really weird. We have a lot of things that we don't carry that like typical bars like maybe would carry. I think we call it a cocktail house, which it's not a lounge, it's not a bar. Like that's a weird thing, because we believe that like, the way you enter someone's house and experience hospitality is different than the way you like walk into a cocktail lounge. And we really wanted believe that like hospitality involves a transfer of like ownership of like this is my space, like make yourself at home, and by the end when you leave, I want you to feel like it's your home too. So we have all those things that like, sound corny, but it's like what we legitimately believe and want people to experience. And so like first and foremost, like it is like craft for community. I feel like I can make you a cocktail and it could be, in my opinion, the most beautiful cocktail I've ever made in my life. I give it to you and I know you're going to urinate it out like, within a few hours. So like, what's the meaning in it except for like that, the beauty of that moment, which is like there and transient, and I think is worth not like throwing away. But also it is for the purpose of like, if it's these micro communities, like fantastic. If you'll never come back, that's okay. But like ideally there's that sense of like we are creating experience of drinking together. And like, let's be honest, it's in the burbs, and like it's not a place that I ever pictured myself owning a bar. I went to college out here, and I never wanted to come back out here.
Right.
There was no drinking culture. And when there is a drinking culture that exists, I feel like, I don't want to slam the suburbs, but I do feel like there is a general sense of privacy. Everyone's got like homes that are more spread apart. A lot of people, especially people who are getting like craft beer and craft cocktails and craft anything, they have these like little pockets in their basements. They create little bars, and they think, oh, this is going to be this den of like whatever, manhood or womanhood or otherhood or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, this is my space, and people are going to come and be like, look at your thing that you've done in your life. And it just rarely happens. Like, how many times do we have people over at our basement bars and be like, look, let's all have community. I know it does happen, but I feel like there's laws and structures set up out here in particular to discourage public drinking, and in a way that makes it a private practice that's unhealthy. But we were allowed to sort of write our own liquor license application. And so even though like it is a law that you have to serve food, we did just want to be a bar. So we're serving other people's food.
Nice.
We're just finding a way to like bring people who are not like each other sitting down next to each other and talking.
And how do you do that? I guess would be the question. You can put the building up, you can tell people to come in, but that doesn't necessarily make them do that, and like you said, there can be almost a culture of shame around drinking, and especially in suburban type areas. So how do you cut through that and make it okay to go grab a drink with your friends and not feel guilty about it?
Yeah, I don't know if we're doing it successfully. Like, I think we are. I can tell you, like, our strategy is like, if you pour it, people come. That's like always the truth about like and people do go to, you know, dive bars and restaurants and everything to drink. But I think like, so part of my strategy is this, and maybe this goes back to my artistic background, but like I've always loved spectacle. Like I don't feel like you've ever gone to like a theater show with a bunch of theater snobs, but there's this very real thing that happens where you're like, I have this theater education. I'm gonna like sit back and cross my arms and be like, I wonder what that lighting designer meant when they used that like that particular like filter or gobo or like that like choice, or the set design or whatever, and what are they trying to tell me? And it's just like, it's a very like intellectual experience. But I feel like a spectacle in theater, I've always been drawn to circus. I'm actually odd to say, but I'm a trained clown. Like
cool.
Yes, I love red nose.
I just context, I went to an acting conservatory, so I'm like all about this shit right now.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
In the like Lecoq style, I'm like very like, it's one of my favorite things. I've even, you know, done clowning on like Second City's main stage and IO and all that. It's a huge passion for me. But the reason I love that form and that style and my connection to the bar and spectacle is that like, it's disarming. Like the moment you feel like wowed by something, the moment it's like, it makes you giggle or connects you to like a part of like your inner child.
Yes.
You're like, I'm not sitting here in like judgments about this. Maybe I'm so curious, but I'm not curious in a way that like takes me away from it. Like we fought with the idea of like, you know, not even like claiming our Yelp page or whatever, because I do feel like when you go in and you're a Yelp leader, and like, no offense to anyone who's listening who does that sort of thing, because it's a love and a passion for them. But a lot of my experience with people who depend on that when they go out is that it turns them into critics. Just like someone who walks into a theater and like crosses their arms, people are like, oh, what are they trying to do? And so a lot of what we try to do first and foremost is like, it's make people giggle, like with like, whether it's like a dumb name we chose or a description, like calling a cocktail DTF, like down a fiesta, or like putting like something like dumb, like cotton candy on a drink, or boba in it, or like something that like makes people want to take out the cameras and take an Instagram photo, or just like it makes people happy. And I think that can first and foremost take the judgment away from the experience and bring people together because they're experiencing something. And then ideally, you know, the next step is to have them take a sip and go like, oh, holy shit, that's really good. That's like in our employee handbook, we talk about how that's actually one of our like prime virtues, is like that, like, oh shit moment where you tasted something that you've never tried before. Like, and so a lot of our background and experience is like trying to take on any culinary ingredients or technique that like we've had that experience with in dining out or in working with chefs or whatever. And if we incorporate that into that, we really want to pass on that wow moment.
Yeah. And I love that you use the term spectacle, because I think that that's such a good word for it, because there is a fine line to walk between spectacle and gimmick. And that oh shit moment, I think, is the difference, is the, okay, what is this gimmicky shit that I'm about to oh God, it's good. Oh, it's like really good. And that would be the difference between spectacle and gimmick. So obviously, come a good cocktail house, amazing at your spectacles. What else can we expect when we walk into that door? What does it look like? Paint the picture for me. Give me a good theater description, my dude.
Oh man. Okay. So you walk in and there's this like hand like molded cement bar top, and this like artisan from Chicago who designed some of the plateware and like glassware for like Alinea and the aviary, and the plateware when they went and did their Boucle store, like he designed this like almost, I think it's a symbol he found within like French monasteries. He did this like repeating symbol, individual big cement molds, and he made this bar top over it, and it curves around, and I think it only seats like 3 on one side, like 8 on the other. We had found this upholsterer who did this work in this like hotel in Omaha that has this beautiful like tufted back, slightly different in color, like dark green and light green. These big round mirrors on this exposed brick wall with this like old untouched ceiling. But I think that the highlight of it when you walk in, what you see everyone do the moment they enter the space, is they look at the shelving, because from about my chin height up until the ceiling, which is a very, very high ceiling. It's 4 shelves, maybe 20 feet across with a gap, and then another 3 feet of just bottles.
Mm.
And I think that very thing, and I mean, there's additional space. You walk upstairs, is the living room. There's a beautiful patio that can seat another like 75 people out there. But I think that just that experience of walking in and seeing a curated shelf, I think takes people back. And honestly, there's people who you can tell they've been getting into alcohol. You can see that everyone has the same look on their face when they walk in, and they're like, I thought I knew my spirits. Like I thought I was getting into this thing. And then they look and they see like categories they've never touched before.
Mm.
Or like a category that they've been getting into that's suddenly like expanded. And they're like, oh, have you guys ever tried? There's like this Haitian sugarcane distillate, like chlorine. And they look, and all of a sudden there's like 7 or 8 selections that they've never like seen before. Like people love to like show off obscurity,
Yes.
or like, they're like random knowledge, or like but if you sit and you immediately feel like there's more to try, like there's more in heaven and earth than I've dreamt of in my philosophy here in this bar. Okay, like now I can maybe relax. Maybe they know what they're doing. But I think that's a little bit of the setup there. I think a beautiful cement bar top, like I think really beautifully upholstered, like bench seating, and then just bottles.
So how do you decide then as beverage director what bottles are going to come in and how to cater to that person that is looking for that obscure liquor, or they want to expand their palate? How do you go and find the bottles that are going to cater to that, but also be, I guess, non-exclusive, not too obscure that the average person isn't going to want to try them?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I feel like we just have a very clear standard. We have to love what's on our shelf. We don't have anything that we don't love.
Okay.
And people come in and they'll be like, oh my God, I can't drink gin. When I was in college, I drank too much, and now I smell this stuff and I want to throw up. I feel like that happens with different spirits like tequila or gin or whatever. And to be able to look at someone in the face and be like, well, there might be a scientific reason for that. And like I'll sometimes dive in if they want to like jump on the nerd taxi and like talk about like, why gin stopped cutting heads and why you're consuming ethyl acetates.
We're going to jump on that nerd thing in a minute, so put a pin in that one.
But yeah, we either then get on that taxi with them, or we'll be like, I promise you, like the quality of things that we have on our shelf, like there's nothing that you're gonna put into your body that we carry that's going to poison you more than it has to, because everything does contain ethanol.
Okay, Chad, we're jumping on the nerd taxi. Tell me about the gin. What?
I think it's I don't want to bore any listener, but if this can be a bonus track or whatever, when I think about bad gin, it brings me back to like a post World War II like industrialization and ethic in distilleries in America. That they had gone through prohibition, they had gone through the conversion to wartime production, and now they have to make a profit. And so there's a reason why you don't see a vodka in like classic cocktails prior to 1950, and there's a reason you do afterwards. It is like by far the cheapest thing to make, and so you're like marketing and something that's like, it's not flavorless, it's clean, but it does make sense just from like a commercial standpoint, right? And so as you're trying to like isolate the ethanol molecule, that's just what distillation is, right? You've got your the distiller's beer, you're trying to isolate ethanol. As you get up there, right before ethanol evaporates, I honestly, I forgot the like exact temperature, but it's right around 85 degrees Celsius. Right before that, there's methyl alcohol and ethyl acetate, and things that like in large industrial distilleries, you might like, siphon off and sell that to like nail polish removers and stuff. But I always ask people if you've ever like opened up a bottle of cheap vodka and smelled nail polish remover. It's because it's actually in there, and the distillery has chosen profit over health. And they've just kept some of their heads in there. And so I and this is maybe just a theory of mine, maybe an assumption, but I also know there's a reality that some consumers did get wise to the fact that if I'm smelling nail polish remover, it's probably not good for my body. So some distilleries will make the choice, instead of just redistilling some of those heads and making it not that poisonous, they throw in juniper berries, and not like, redistill or vapor distilled or whatever. They're just throwing it in there to cover up the aroma of a poorly distilled product. And so bad gin might actually be poisoning you more effectively without you noticing than bad vodka.
Thursday conspiracy theories on Rock 95.5. I'm so here for it. All right. Well, what can we look forward to for the rest of the year for Common Good Cocktail House?
Yeah, what can we look forward to? Well, I mean, like, we're right in the middle of patio season right now, and like it's a love-hate relationship with it. Like, God, it's a chance for people to come and just kind of relax and enjoy the weather. And ours, we don't even call it a patio; we call it a cocktail garden, because we're those weirdos who call ourselves a house in the first place. So
you're very different. You're very unique.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're precious in that way. There's, and so of course we with the spectacle and the outside drinking, we love our frozen cocktails. I mean, who doesn't? Like, you know, Parsons first wowed us with their Negroni slushy years ago, and who doesn't want to like experience like drinking a patio, something that's like frozen and super delicious too. So
you're so right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Chad. This has been like I feel educated. I feel like my artistic side has been indulged. I feel like I've learned so much and gained so much from this. So thanks for hanging with us today, man.
totally my pleasure. Thank you for having us on.
Of course.